on transportation services in the Lower Merion School District. I'm Cheryl Masterman, and along with Allison Crawford, I'm one of the co-presidents of the Inter-School Council. As a reminder, the ISC is a parent guardian volunteer organization that connects the district's 11 home and school associations, and among other things, hosts hot topics every second Tuesday of the month for our entire community. Mark your calendars for our next hot topic, which will be the state of the district with Acting Superintendent Megan Schaefer on Tuesday, May 9th at 9:30 a.m. via this same Zoom link. Also note that there is a gifted education presentation for parents on Tuesday, April 25th at 7 p.m. with Lower Merion's Gifted Education Department, along with Chester County Intermediate Unit's Gifted Liaisons, presenting components of social and emotional learning as they may relate to gifted students. That Zoom link may be found on the district website calendar. Our presenter today is Mr. Oldis Vilsons, LMSD Supervisor of Transportation. He will be presenting the many intricacies of our three-tiered transportation system and how it relates to start time decisions. Today, you will have the opportunity to ask questions via the raise hand function. We will attempt to call on you in the order you raise hands and as time allows. Please keep your questions brief and refrain from using names. This hot topic is being recorded and added to the ISC YouTube channel, so ask general questions rather than personal questions specific to your child. And now I will turn it over to our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first Zoom presentation. I have attended hundreds of Zoom meetings, but I have never presented. So I'll try to share my screen. Of course, I have I'm not able to, is there a possibility to give me option to share the screen?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
You should be a co-host.
Okay, yeah, I do. I do now. So bear with me. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Oldis Vilsons. I'm Supervisor of Transportation for Lower Merion School District. I believe I'm going on my 8th year now. Time just went so fast. I really appreciate this opportunity to present. I have presented to ISC before, and ISC has been very supportive of our staff. Are providing gift cards multiple times to our drivers. They're placing banners thanking our drivers, which was really appreciated, especially right after COVID, when our staff was one of the first people to return and transport to the district while everyone was still in virtual mode. We transported non-public school students. So your support is truly appreciated, and it's kind of unique. I have lived in other districts, and I never seen HSA presenting about transportation and such topics. So people usually say school bus is extension of the classroom, but it doesn't always feel like that. But I definitely can tell you that feels like that in Lower Merion for you guys being so interested and involved in this and trying to learn and understand what we do every day. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my wonderful staff. They are doing amazing work, drivers, aides, bus mechanics, office staff, supervisors. They work hard, but most importantly, they all care about the students we transport. And that's the most important part for it. Because I can trust people when they make decisions caring about the students. I also want to thank our routing department, who's with the healthy start times, it's been, I mean, I think when I started in the district, it was already ongoing topic. So that was back in 2015. And our routing staff has been working hard on looking at different scenarios and schedules and everything. And believe it or not, it takes thousands of hours. It takes takes about 6 weeks to come up with a scenario, which is rough draft, and to fine tune it takes even longer. So they still have to do the regular job, transporting and adding students and to runs and dealing with any issues with runs. So they work nights and weekends to work on these healthy start time scenarios. I'll quickly go over the Pennsylvania law doesn't really require school districts to provide transportation services for regular education students. Many people don't know that because almost all the districts provide transportation. The only district I can know in Montgomery County, I think, is Jenkintown. They have all walkers. So the only state mandated transportation services for students are students with IEP and students with services are individual education program and also charter school students. If a district chooses to provide transportation services for regular education students, the district is required by the state to provide like services to non-public school students that are located within the district boundaries or outside of a boundaries a distance not to exceed 10 miles by nearest public highway. Another transportation eligibility point is that state law allows school district to ask school students to walk 1.5 miles to the bus stop. District policy allows 0.75 miles for elementary students and 1 mile for secondary students. Many students who reside within the legal walking distance receive transportation because they would have to access schools by walking on hazardous routes. Currently, that's approximately 3,000 students. That is a topic that sometimes comes up when saying if we would increase it to the state allowed walk distance, would that allow us to save buses? It would allow to save maybe 1 or 2 buses, but you have many schools, it wouldn't make any change. For example, Harriton, which is a big school, Iton Avenue is not acceptable for walking. So obviously all the extending that to 1.5 miles will have no impact on how many students get busing to Harriton. As I mentioned, we are required to accommodate non-public school students, so we have to manage non-public school calendars, which in majority of cases do not align with district calendars and bell times. As a result, we have to manage about 130 different school calendars and bell times, and early dismissals for about 130 schools, because every school is eligible for the same number of early dismissals that are provided to public schools. There is families that share 50-50 custody are entitled to transportation to both parents' residences. If both parents reside in a district, that's a key. We won't transport outside of district. We currently have 372 split custody families and 183 families utilize this service. That basically comes to a situation where these students needed 2 seats. One would be to their one parent's home, and another would maybe on another bus to another parent's home. For high schoolers, they manage their schedules themselves, and they go from they use whichever bus they have to use that day. For elementary kids, we have to manage their calendars when they go to one parent's house and to other parent's house, which is requires really the attention from detail from office staff and the drivers. We have to keep calendars updated. and confusions happen. The state and federal regulations allow school students to be transported 3 per bus seat. District policy currently allows 3 per seat for elementary students and 2 per seat for secondary students. Based on this policy, elementary students, we can have 72 elementary students on a bus, which is not ideal, of course, that's this discipline issues can arise from that, but and secondary school bus up to 48 students so if it's 72 passengers bus, we can only transport 48 high school students and 48 middle school students. We currently transport about 8,730 students every day, 7,728 for public schools and 1,002 for non-public schools. Current public school enrollment is 8,535 students. We have in our database, we have 2,576 non-public students that are eligible to request transportation at any time. For non-public students, we have a system where they have to request the transportation through the special form that is on the website. It's so they so that's we only 1,002 approximately have completed this request, but when we receive lists from schools that are their enrollment for non-public schools, that means they have 2,576 of our district students in their schools. We transport to 141 schools currently. 42 schools are located within Lower Merion School District and 99 schools located outside district boundaries. We have 11 public schools. We have 87 non-public schools, 42 special needs schools or specialized schools, and 1 charter school. These numbers, if you look back, they fluctuate. We always get in new schools. Some of these schools have 1 or 2 students, so if they graduate or they leave the school, then we stop transporting to that school. So this number is constantly fluid, but it's been between 130 to 145. This is just a graphic visualization of how it looks. That light blue area around the district, that's a 10-mile radius outside of district. The 10-mile radius is measured from a district boundaries. It's not measured from center of the district. So sometimes you may have to go from one corner district across the district and then 10 miles out. So you can see that we have schools in Delaware, in Chester County, in Philadelphia. So we are pretty spread out with locations that we transport to. This is our the ridership. This is how many students are assigned to our buses. Public school student data. This is, and as you can see, it was growing. Then around 1920, during COVID, I think there was a lot of students who did a homeschooling or virtual schooling. It dropped, but as you can see, it keeps coming back up. Currently, we are at 7,728 students, and I expect this number to increase to at least 1920 levels. Our fleet consists of 135 buses. 37 buses are diesel buses, 59 are compressed natural gas buses. That's our very unique to our district. Compressed natural gas is actually very clean bus, and emissions are very low. It's renewable by most part. A part of a gas we use is renewable, so it has very good we have received multiple environmental awards from different organizations for our CNG fleet, I can't take credit for it. That was done many years ago. This was one of the first districts in the country that implemented this program. I believe Mike Andre was supervisor at that time, so we just continuing the work. We have 9 wheelchair lift equipped diesel buses, 28 30 passenger buses, and 2 gasoline 20 passenger buses. I also want to mention that our mechanics maintain also district vehicles, all the vehicles that are used by operations and grounds. We do regular maintenance on them and preventative maintenance and repairs. I don't know if you are aware, like your car has to go through inspection once a year. School bus actually receives 3 inspections for a year. We inspect school bus every 6 months, not once a year. And then in the summer, state police comes out and they inspect our bus. There are usually 2 troopers and they get on every bus. They check bus operations, and it takes 2 full days to go through all 135 buses, and they are inspected and stickered by state police as okay to use for transporting students. We also do frequent preventative maintenance. Brakes on school buses do not go as long as on the cars. We have to replace them between 10 to 30,000 miles on a bus. This is a question that sometimes comes up also about school vehicles, which are 9-passenger vehicles. The school vehicle is a motor vehicle, except motorcycle, designed for carrying no more than 10 passengers, including the driver. So if anything bigger than that would be the school bus by legal definition. Motor vehicle, which is designed to carry 11 passengers or more, including the driver, is a school bus. There is limitations how we can use the school vehicle. We do contract them for certain situations, but right now we don't have any in our fleet. The reason is that 9-passenger vehicle doesn't have a red lights and amber lights and a stop arm like you can see in the picture on bottom left, bottom corner. So those lights and stop arm on a school bus is traffic control device, legal traffic control device. All cars are mandated to stop. Do they stop? No, some don't, but they're mandated to stop when a bus has activated red lights. There is no, the school vehicle is not able to register, control traffic. Hazard lights are not traffic control device. That's a warning device. So we can't really, most of our bus stops are at corners, central to the families that live in the area. The students come to that stop. We pick up 9 students in the stop and go. With this vehicle, we would have to go and try to see if student lives in a cul-de-sac or in a street where it's safe to stop or where we can pull over. I would never pick up students with this vehicle on Montgomery Avenue, Lancaster Avenue, probably 70% of the roads in Lower Merion. I would not dare to stop and pick up students with amber hazard lights. So it can only pick up students in a safe location. It's often used for special needs transportation, because often these special needs students have stops at their house where we can pull over or go in the driveway or things. So that's where the big difference, and that's where the limitation of a 9-passenger vehicle is. Again, as I said, we do contract them and they do go out. We use them for the smaller schools outside of district that have fewer students going there and that we are able to safely pick up. Continue on the scope of our transportation. We currently have 155 vehicles provide daily home to school routes. 103 are district bus operated routes, and the rest of them are operated by contractors, and those are the vans and some sedans, smaller vehicles to schools that have 1 or 2 students attending. We have 28 vehicles to provide 53 shuttle routes to 70 non-public schools. So about 70 non-public schools go through the shuttle system. I will touch on the shuttle system in my next slides. 17 vehicles provide 23 shuttle routes to ride at school. Ride at school transportation is when we pick up kindergartners with elementary school kids, bring them to their school, and then a bus would take the PM kindergartners to AM program at Ride at School and here at the district admin building. And then later they would take them back to the school for their PM kindergarten and would bring the PM kindergartners, AM kindergartners to the PM program at Ride at School. One vehicle provides 3 routes between non-public and public schools for special services. Some non-public students qualify for services that non-public schools can provide, and they're provided in our schools, so we provide that transportation. 7 vehicles provide routes between public schools. Those are programs that maybe are in a certain schools, or there is a advanced math where elementary kids may go to middle school for their math program. So we have 7 vehicles that provide that transportation service. The 23 vehicles provide 37 midday routes daily. These midday routes are kindergarten routes. We take AM kindergartners home, and then when bus drops off last student, it turns around and starts picking up PM kindergartners, and then I bring them to school. 10 vehicles provide 33 routes to community-based work program sites daily. Community-based work programs are for students for life skills support, and they go to work at the grocery stores or hospitals, and they work with job coach, and we transport them there and back to school for their work program. 6 vehicles provide 7 routes to 2 technical high school programs. I will touch on the CMTHS on probably next slide. 6 vehicles service 6 elementary after-school routes for programs and clubs daily. These are elementary programs, reading, math, after school. So when the bus picks up elementary kids, takes them home, one of the, or 2 buses are turned back to school to pick up students from after school programs and then drive them home a little bit later. We operate 20 late buses that provide 40 late runs for middle schools and high schools daily. We have 4:30 late run and 5:40 late run for middle school. So it's 20 buses, each does 2 late runs. 5 vehicles provide special needs late runs for middle school and high school. These are same times. They mirror regular ed runs, but these are for students that may have a special equipment required on a bus that can be provided on a regular late bus or aid requirement. We also provide over 1,000 field trips, sports and activity trips, many requiring multiple buses. And then we provide special routes for Black Rock Middle School students participating in sports and Penvin attendance area locations. So the students, when they participate in sports and location that is in Penvin attendance area, they get transported directly home. Kind of late bus, but it doesn't originate in school. Central Manco Technical High School program. Just to give you an idea how it works currently, Harrington students come in on Harrington buses. Lower Merion students are picked up by Harrington buses. You have to remember, Harrington attendance area is basically the whole district. So we can capture Lower Merion students and bring them to Harrington High School at 7:10 a.m. Harrington transfer bus leaves from Harrington High School and drops off at CMTHS for 7:35 start time. At 9:50, CMTHE bus comes to CMTHS. Sorry, at 9:50 a.m. Pickup bus picks up students at CMTHS. That their morning program is over, and they take them to Harrington. Same for Lower Merion. They get back around 10:26. Then the midday bus picks up at Lower Merion and at Carrollton 10:55 and 11:10 accordingly for PM program and CMTHS, and drops off at CMTHS at 11:40 a.m. Then two buses pick up CMTHS students at 2:15 p.m. and transport them directly to home. As I mentioned, for non-public students, we use our shuttle transfer system. It's almost like a best comparison would be airlines. When you travel when you fly somewhere, frequently you don't have a direct flight. You may have to take a layover, sometimes even multiple. They call it hub and spoke system. It definitely creates efficiency for airlines, and it's also creates efficiency for us. Like I said, we transport 140 schools, and we can run 103 routes. So there's no way I can have a bus for every school. So there's just illustration of how it's very general, basic illustration. It's a little bit more complex than that. The one major difference is airlines set their schedule and you have to comply with it. For us, schedule is set by non-public schools. Their bell times tend to change. At least few schools change bell times every year. So we have to basically reroute it and reschedule it. But we only allow them to change once a year at the beginning for first school year. We can't accommodate changes going on. This is just a kind of example. It's the Delaware County Christian School, how the transfer system works. Student goes to the stop. The transfer bus picks them up at 7:17. That drops them off at 7:17 for 7:30 shuttle at Harrington High School. They have 13-minute layover, and then a shuttle bus takes them to the high school. To the Delaware Christian County Christian. Shuttle bus arrives by 8:10 for 8:15 bell time. In the afternoon, their bell time is 3 p.m. Bus arrives at Delaware County Christian, picks up at around 3:08, brings a student to Harrington High School for 3:45, 15-minute layover for 4 o'clock. Transfer bus that takes student home and student walks to the stop. So there's that's a basic illustration how our shuttle transfer system works. Currently, current transfer system, we have in AM we have 2 transfer points at Harrington, 7:10 and 7:35. Penn Valley has 7:25 transfer and Marion 7:50. We station, and in PM, Harrington is 3:34 and 4:45, but Kenwood 3:30 and 4:10. We station bus aids at all these locations to assist students transferring the buses. Some of our Lower Merion students also use transfer system. We have a Lower Merion high school students that attend schools outside Lower Merion attendance area. We may pick them up. They may come to we may transfer them to Black Rock Middle School or Welsh Valley Middle School, and then they take their middle school buses home from school, because Lower Merion buses don't go in all the areas of township, not like Harrington buses. 3-tier transportation system. As I have said many times, we operate 3-tier transportation system. These are current bell times. The second chart is secondary swap option that board has selected as a board voted to implement in next school year. I'm gonna we have routed and analyzed the system, and These are the times between tiers we need to make it work. I'm gonna go a little bit explain when it's like in the morning, according to the chart, we have 40 minutes to we have 40 minutes for the tier. Honestly, we don't have 40 minutes for a tier because we can't drop off students at 7:30 for 7:30 bell time. So our buses are scheduled to arrive at least 10 minutes prior to the bell time. So high school 7:20, middle school's 8:05, elementary school's 8:50. So that is already means that we really have a 30 minutes to operate that tier. And of course, we can't drop everyone off at the same time at 8:05 or 8:50. So some students will arrive a little bit earlier. Same system will be secondary spot. Reason for students, they need time to walk to classroom. Students get breakfast often, and the time is needed for that. It's our schools are fairly large in size, and you can't get to the classroom in just 2 minutes. So that's a morning part. It's really the 40-minute tier on the paper. In practicality, it's a 30-minute tier for us. Afternoons. This is a Lower Merion High School dismissal chart. These are the buses. We provide this chart to school and ask to send it to families. So families check their emails, they will have this chart before the school year starts. So when the child comes out of the school, they know where their bus will be located in reference to the school entrance, and they can go there. These buses the bell time is for Lower Merion High School is about 2:40. They board in 6-7 minutes, and they off. The buses leave. There's no delays. All the buses are there. We know where every bus is. This is same type of chart for Hardin High School. These buses arrive. We have them staggered, departing different depots to make sure that they arrive and are able to position themselves in the proper position, because we really don't want to buses backing up around schools unless it's absolutely necessary. So routing department schedules these buses that 72 would arrive there first, or sometimes they are already stationed there after morning run, and they all come in a certain order. So they are all lined up, ready to go. Hardin buses are scheduled to leave at 2:48. So for Hardin, that's why high school currently, when we line up buses, is very quick boarding time. We just the buses are scheduled to leave at 2:47 and 2:46 accordingly. Do they always leave at that time? No, sometimes there's minute delay or something like that, but that's a scheduled time. Then when it comes to middle schools, we can't board all the middle school buses at the same time like we do high school. Same, we can't board at the same time all the elementary buses, because we can't line them up, and it's also the middle school and elementary boarding requires more supervision and oversight, because we're really trying to avoid the students getting to board get on the wrong bus. So the middle school, if you look at Blackrock, I'm not going to read all this chart, but the buses, the first bus is scheduled to leave around 3:10, and the last bus is scheduled to leave around 3:29. They can't just release all the students and go to the buses, and actually all the buses are not there, because if you look at it, that some of the high school buses, Hardin buses, the run is too long for them to even make it to middle school at 3:10, so they may be arriving a little bit later. Same Welsh Valley, 3:13 to 3:27, etc. Same for elementary schools. But if you notice that the last bus leaving a middle school is 3:29, 3:27, 3:24, 3:35, we already starting is an elementary bell time. Again, for elementary kids, of course, bell time is 3:35. It will take them 5 minutes. Will take them some time to get back to the location, and they usually get organized in certain rooms by the bus to make sure, because elementary boarding involves kindergartners who have to be seated in front of a bus to make sure driver keep an eye on them. They usually we make sure that kindergartners are met by the parent or guardian at the stop. So middle school and elementary buses, each bus takes probably 3 to 5 minutes to board, and you can't board all of them at the same time, because Black Rock is serviced by, can remember from top of my head, but there's so many buses that you can't, they are lined up behind the school. So what schools do, they board 3, 4 group of the buses, make announcements, bus 55, last warning, bus about to leave, and then they pull away, and then they board next 5 buses. So this way, it's not like that every bus would leave at 3:05 or 3:10 from middle school. It's not physically and logistically possible. So what happens when we do the secondary swap lineup and simultaneous boarding for middle schools, it will not be possible like it is currently for high school. So now middle schools is a first tier. It will take a little bit longer. We're looking at the plans. We can line up some buses. Maybe schools can find a system to board more buses at the same time, but still we're never going to be able to board them all like we do in the high school in 6 minutes. So obviously we're going to need more time to accomplish that. So the boarding time also will significantly exceed current first tier boarding time, which is 6-7 minutes. So it's going to be longer. High school being second tier, we also kind of lose some of that efficiency we have as a high school, because high school tier boarding time will become probably equal to middle school boarding time. The middle school buses that they drop off going to start arriving to high school. They're all not going to be there at the same time. They're not going to be lined up. Their school's going to have to supervise these students and make announcements which buses arrive. That's just how I imagine schools manage the system. They may have some other ideas, but that new boarding system will have to be implemented, and they probably will need more supervision, because right now high schoolers come out in 6-7 minutes, they are gone from a high school. They will be waiting for buses, so there will probably be more time for supervision and more resources needed. Just about our seating capacity utilization, frequently it is mentioned that we maybe have buses that not fully utilized. Our bus utilization is very high. There are certain circumstances when you can see fewer students on a bus. I will try to highlight that, but for example, the run 15 is that it's 30 passengers for AM transfer, then 48, then it's 1434. You would think that like when bus has 14 and 30 passengers, that could be transported maybe on a smaller 30 passenger bus, but it doesn't work that way, because you have to remember 30 passenger bus can accommodate 15 middle schoolers or high schoolers, not 30. It's 2 per seat. And as you can see on these charts, we also overassign students. We know that many high school students maybe take a car. Some high school students may use a late bus, or some middle school students will use a late bus after activities. So we use it overassign. As I mentioned, Lower Merion High School, 59 students are assigned to this run. We can only seat 48. So it's already accounting for students that probably not riding. As we start a year, sometimes our estimates are not good. We know which areas have better ridership, larger ridership, which one's lesser, but we may make a mistake. So if driver or parents tell us the bus seems to be too full, we analyze it, and if there are too many students, then we adjust and shift the stops. But we start with a higher number. Same if you look at the run 18, we have 66 high school students, 65 middle school students assigned to the bus, and like I said, it can only accommodate 48 students. This is the same type example. 70 high schoolers are assigned to Route 43 and AM and PM. 77 are assigned in AM, and 59 are assigned in the PM. PM, sometimes the ridership will be a little bit lighter because of the late buses. So we comp using the system, and that's not just our district. Most districts use a system where they overassign high school and sometimes middle school buses. We can't really overassign elementary buses because those students ride. Here is somebody will say, hey, here is a part of a run that is 5 students only. That is actually part of a run that goes from Kinwood Elementary to right at school. So what happens there, bus finishes at Kinwood Elementary at around 9, slightly before 9 o'clock, and it's done for a day. So it picks up 5. At this point, everyone should be at school, at elementary school already. So this bus really, we can't use it anywhere else, but it takes those 5 kindergartners from Kinwood to their district administrative building for the right at school program. So it's not replacing this run with a 9-passenger vehicle will not open a bus. That bus is already open at that time. Couple more examples, bear with me. I know it's a very boring topic. Same again, there is a big bus, 89, 72 passengers. You can see it transports Harrington and Gladwin. It skips the middle school because some Harrington buses, they can't make it to middle school because the territory we're covering is too big, so they're not going to be able to do that. But they have a time to do Holy Child shuttle at that time. It's 3 kids. So again, putting vehicle in this bus, putting 9-passenger vehicle on this run will not open up this bus for me. Same as here. It does a smaller run in between when little time they have between them when they finish Harrington before they have to go to Belmont Hills. And this is Belmont Hills right at school run. Same thing as I mentioned before. It happens when all elementary kids are already home. All my buses are open, so this bus takes them to right at school. It may even be parking there at Lower Marion admin building, so it's almost on the way back to terminal. School bus drivers, why is it so difficult? Why it's so hard to hire school bus drivers? I just want to go over requirements because sometimes there are assumptions that the driver only needs a CDL and they can drive a school bus. That is not a case. I can't even have a SEPTA driver to drive a school bus without retraining. First of all, drivers require physical examination. They sometimes 2 if they have a federal one. Physical examination makes sure the driver is fit to drive a bus, that they don't have any medical conditions that would prevent them from safely operating vehicle. And physical examination, every driver has to pass it every year. They are tested every year. They also have to go through drug and alcohol testing, pre-employment drug and alcohol testing, annual random. There's also FMCSA clearinghouse check, which is new, about 3 years. There's a database if one of the candidates we can check if candidate has had any positive drug tests. They also go through all the background checks that every district employee criminal history, FBI fingerprint, child abuse, etc. So then they have to acquire, if they come to us untrained, with just a regular driver's license, they have to start by receiving CDL, commercial driver's license. There's knowledge test, then they have to get past a knowledge test for P endorsement, which is passenger endorsement. Then they have a knowledge test for air brakes, which are the special brakes on our buses versus hydraulic. And S endorsement, school bus endorsement, which requires knowledge test. It requires 14-hour classroom and 6 hours in bus. We exceeded bus training. We probably train 100+ hours if the driver never driven a bus, because I can assure you, you can't train a bus driver in 6 hours. That's not possible. And I would never allow somebody with 6 hours experience to transport children. So if SEPTA driver comes to us, they will have the P passenger endorsement, but they don't have air brakes and they don't have a school bus endorsement. So they have to go in a training and get the knowledge test. And then there's also PennDOT road test. All these candidates, including SEPTA driver or CDL driver, existing driver, will have to take a practical test at DMV location, and with instructor, it's actually very rigorous test. They have to know even engine parts and under the hood part of the testing and everything. Then we have to teach them township and surrounding roads. Township is not easy to navigate and understand. We have roads by the same name, so we want to make sure by the time they drive your children, they are familiar with township and they know their run, so they're not looking at piece of paper how to go. Every driver has to recertify every 4 years. They have to do classroom training, 10 hours minimum. We do 20, and in-bus evaluation. The driver instructor, we have about 10 driver instructors. One of the driver instructors evaluate their driving skills and make sure that they are good. Qualifications for bus drivers. This job is not for everyone. You really have to, like we always say, you really have to have amazing patience to do this job. Students will test you. Interpersonal skills, it's something it's not difficult to teach. I think it's impossible to teach. It's either person has it or don't, and if they have it, we may help them to improve it. If they don't, there is really not a good candidate for this job. We're not transporting cargo, we're transporting people. As mentioned, patience is a must. Dealing with different students, must always concentrate on driving. That's a very, very big part of it. They not just have to watch students, and they monitor students' bus sitting with their back to them, and they still have to drive and make sure the bus is safe. If you're driven on the Montgomery Avenue, if you drive one of our school buses next to the truck, it's a 3-inch game between a truck and school bus due to how narrow the lines are. And on another side, there is a pulse that you can easily hit with a mirror. It's also not like all the drivers drivers have to clean up a bus. They have to clean a bus after the run, sweep a bus, make sure that it looks presentable. Students get car sick, whose responsibility it is to clean up, and it's a bus driver's responsibility. So I saw somewhere the T-shirt on the right side. It's exaggeration, but it's actually very, very much of it is true. Expectations for bus driver are very high for what they expected to be able to do. And interestingly, we have some SEPTA drivers that came to us, really excellent drivers and everything. But part of their retraining, I also find, is when SEPTA drives, they basically are instructed to drive and not to really get involved with the passengers. If there is issue, just call 911. For the bus drivers, it's completely opposite. We want them to know the students' names. We want them to build a certain relationship with students, be friendly, not friends, but be friendly in order to, that always gives them better tools to manage student discipline on the bus. So that's part of a retraining for except the bus driver who usually just kind of tries to not interact. They are trained not to interact with public and not to, they have assistance for that. How does a bus driver's day look? That's another challenge for not, it's why the job is not for every person. A regular driver that just have a home to school runs, don't do any extra work. They start around 6:30. Of course, there's a 5:45 starts too, but in generally, most of the drivers will start between 6:30 a.m. Clock in, they are done by 9:30 a.m. They clock out. They're not paid at this point. They only have to come back at 1:30 p.m. Some people like this schedule. They may go to gym, they may go home and do some things, but if you live farther out of district, it's really doesn't make that much sense to go home. So they kind of stuck in a district. At 1:30 p.m. they clock in, they work around, they finish around 4:35 p.m. So technically it's a 10-hour commitment, but it includes about 6 to 7 hours of paid time. Late run driver, the very late run driver, the morning is the same as a regular driver, but in the afternoon, late run driver clocks in at the same time, but they stay on clock for late run. So they will finish around 6:37 p.m. So it's actually 12-hour day, 12-hour commitment, and 8 to 9 hours of paid time. So again, it's not for split shift is not for everyone. So that's why sometimes it's hard to. That's another difficulty why it's hard sometimes to find the drivers. And it's not people always, there is also sometimes there's impression that drivers are always driving in a safe, warm bus, stay dry. That's also not the case, because when the driver arrives to work at that, when they clock in, they have to do pre-trip inspection on the bus. That involves walking around the bus, checking tires, checking engine, oil, fluids, checking all the lights work, checking all the windows. There's no, everything is intact. That requires a lot of time outside of the bus. No matter if it's rain, lightning, snowstorm, they have to do pre-trip. When they're done, they have to do post-trip. Same thing, walk around the bus and everything. When they come back in the afternoon at 1:30, they again have to pre-trip their bus, check everything, make sure it's safe to operate with students, and then post-trip afterwards. No matter what weather is outside, they have to do that. So it's not just get in the bus and drive. Student discipline, I just want to mention this because when I look at national studies or surveys, the student discipline is mentioned as one of the top 5 reasons why school bus drivers, why there's issues with school bus driver retention. This is a picture of the school bus mirror. They call it student mirror. That's how bus driver sees students. Often parents say to me, well, how the driver didn't see that happen? Well, if it's elementary kids that you're seeing in that mirror, that's that you may not, you will lucky if you see the top of their heads, because their bus seat back height is so high, you will not see them. Maybe in the first couple seats you may see in, but you still have to drive. You still have to drive a bus and pay attention. And it doesn't stop when the driver arrives at the stop. They just can't sit down and kick back. There is a whole procedure that they go learn in a training as a school bus driver. When they first, they have to make sure it's safe to stop a bus. Then they have to make sure safe is around the bus before they open the door. Make sure that all the cars around have stopped, that everything's safe. When the students get on, we tell the drivers, count the students. If 5 students got off, check all your mirrors, make sure you see all 5 walking away from a bus, because sometimes students drop something and then they try to pick it up, and that area around the bus, right around the bus, is very dangerous area because driver can see it. So they operate a bus even when they stop. They can't just relax at that moment. They have to make sure every student they dropped off, they see them walking away from a bus. So it's not easy to drive a bus with 60 kids behind you, 50, 60 students behind you from your back. I mean, and sometimes things get thrown at the driver, and so it's not an easy job, and it's not for everyone. That's, I guess, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not for everyone. Healthy start times. I'm almost done. I know I have to leave at 30 minutes for questions and answers. I almost there. Healthy start times. How the proposed start times will have impact on us. I'm listed number of things. They all are, we can resolve all of them. Some we're going to have to figure out ways to be innovative, but having more time until next school year actually gives us more time to work out these challenges and find the solutions for them. For example, late run times, so if school ends later, our late runs will have to run later. And that means that the bus driver day that I mentioned to you will get even longer. They're going to be clocking out instead of 6:37, 7:38, with about the same hours work. After school programs and clubs and school programs and alternate school buildings going to have to be rerouted. We're just going to have to find a way to reroute them. We have to get a final times to do that. So, but we will figure out. CMTHS, that career technical school slide I had, how it works. It's probably not going to work when a high school is no longer first tier. So we're going to have to, and CMTHS most likely will not change times of their programs because of us. So we'll just have to find a way to reroute that when all the times are set in stone. Same community work experience and community-based instructional trips going to have to be rerouted. Sports practice buses will have to go differently because it's going to be a little bit time decision. Many of these things have to be, it's not just our decision, going to have to be decided by athletic directors and other administrators. Field trips, we're going to have a certain times for field trips. We try to set them at the times when we're not doing home to school. Students with attendance area exceptions with transportation. Some students have a certain attendance area exception that allows them to attend a different school than where they reside. Their transportation going to have, most of the attendance area exceptions are without transportation, but there are some special, very special circumstances they may have a transportation. Those going to have to be rerouted. Attendance, Lower Merion High School transfer buses, the students that were transferring through the Black Rock and Wells Valley, that's going to have to be redone because we're changing the order, middle school going first. So the high school kids are not going to be able to use middle school buses to get home. Limitations, how many buses simultaneously can line up, but we can accommodate at some schools. Slower tier, middle school, it's not the slowest tier, but it's a slower than high school tier, will be going first, so loading times will increase. Tier that requires the most support will go later in the day. Elementary will go later in the day, so my office coverage will have to probably, office staff will have to work later in the day to make sure we have a coverage for elementary school students. I guess I'm done with my presentation, and I'm ready to answer questions.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm glad that you found some humor in all of this. Oh, all this. Do you have any medication for stomach ulcers?
Yes. Yeah. I think
Thank
that's
you.
FERPA question, but still, yes.
Right. Thank you for adding even more detail than the last presentation I saw you do. It really is eye-opening, and we would like to open the floor to questions. So again, I would ask folks to use the raise hand function, which then allows me to see who's got a question and in what order they came through. I guess we need to stop sharing screen. That would help. There we go. Thank you. And there,
Cheryl, there is a question from Michelle in the.
yeah, I was just about to say, there was one question in the chat that actually makes sense to ask, and then that gives people to think of other questions. Time, I should say. For the buses assigned 77 or 80 students, how do you monitor how many actually end up riding that bus?
We get a driver's feedback if we go out to schools at the beginning of a year, all the Rich Siegel and all of our driver trainers. Sometimes we go out to schools and observe the ridership on the buses. And honestly, we're going to get feedback from drivers, and we're always going to get feedback from parents if they feel that bus is overcrowded. So with 103 buses, we can't be everywhere at every time, but we monitor that way and make sure that make sure that they don't get overcrowded. The situation with these buses is it may one day be lighter, but sports seasons change. The child that does soccer may not do sports next season, so they're back on a bus. Students that tried, when we hit the snow day, parents says, no, you're not taking my nice car to school. You're going to ride a bus today and you have a seat on the bus. So we have to be prepared for these changes because these students are assigned to the bus and they can choose to ride the bus anytime. So we kind of over years have established the ridership, and we kind of push the limits a little bit to that point, and then we can back off if needed.
Thanks. Okay, so I've got some people who I guess are camera shy, so they're using the chat. Is there an app that parents can use to track their children, such as the school bus app?
Not to track. We're not there yet with tracking app. It's something we're looking in the future. These apps are a little bit challenging. It will require certain district policies to be put in place. We are implementing new routing system that will allow current app will just let a parent know if bus is running late, but you can't follow it on the screen. You have to realize there is a 3-tier system, right? So elementary bus, middle school bus, and high school bus, they may cover same areas. So that app needs to know if it's elementary run, because middle school bus may run late and may come to your house and you think it's your elementary bus coming to the house. So there is a lot of calibrating and setting up. It's all doable. We eventually going to get there, but again, there is a split custody situation where we have to manage who has access to the student's location, because there are sometimes orders where some parent is not allowed to know other parents' bus stop and stuff. So it's a lot of things to consider for that. So, but it's technology is there, and we moving towards it. It may take us a couple of years.
Thanks. Another question here. There's been quite a bit of discussion about a consultation done with MIT. Can you provide some insight into this consultation?
The consultation was, I just want to be clear, there was, it's been mentioned in many meetings. There was never study done with MIT. We did have a consultation with MIT. We did talk to them. We also reached out to their first attempt was Boston School District, where quite honestly didn't work out. I can later, I got your email asking about the MIT study yesterday. I'll send you some articles after I get back to my office with some of the information what happened in Boston. Also, Columbus, Ohio, that was their second bigger attempt to implement, and it really, truly failed dramatically because they had to actually, Columbus, the article I read, they had to change. They went with the the MIT program in Boston was MIT, but then these students and professors developed a company called Alpha Route, which became business. And then they tried to implement it in Columbus, and it failed again. Over winter break, Columbus had to change a routing system and announced to all parents that everyone's route, everyone's bus, and almost everyone's stop will change because the Alpha route system didn't work out. And again, I'm just saying because we never really engaged because there's no track record where we can find that it was successfully implemented. I'm tech guy. I love technology on my buses. I always will be looking for technology on the buses, but what I realize in this time is that, I mean, I can tell you, again, I will not tell you in a meeting, but we have runs and we have systems where I could make it better, but I can't because there are certain requirements, certain nuances to the things. So mathematics don't always work with public policy that implements people's lives. So it's tricky. You can't just there has to be in the middle. So the new routing system we're implementing will actually have some of these logistics, but it also allows us to run test schedules and actually say, okay, this doesn't work. Let's redo it. Let's look at it. So we'll be optimizing. But if I tell you next year, everyone's stop location will change and it would be disaster. So there are certain things that we accomplish by making sure that there is as minimal impact on families as we can. And that's not always the best logistically way.
Thank you. Lisa, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hi, Aldous, you are amazing. And I am in awe of everything you do and getting our kids safely and all our bus drivers who manage horrible weather and snowstorms. And you have an amazing, amazing team. So I'm asking a question with all of that in mind, but it's just from my lack of knowledge, not anything else. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious, like I look at Amazon and I look at FedEx and obviously they're transporting like goods, right? But like, so are there systems that they're using to kind of reroute all of their, I mean, on a daily, basis, like I order something and it's here 24 hours later. Are there things that we can learn from programs that they're using or can leverage to help through all this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And first, yeah, it's not that I'm amazing. It's my staff who makes me look amazing. I'm the face of the operation, but there are people right now working hard and in the offices and drivers that, I mean, the great drivers we have in bus aids, those are they are the daily grind people that do that. I'm just sit here and look amazing. but yeah, there is, but at the same time, we have all the routing software that we use originally was tracking software for transportation, but you just can't transfer it over. I can't tell you, well, your package will arrive within 24, your kid will arrive within 24 hours. But sorry, your kid is running late. We'll attempt another delivery tomorrow. It's just not, it's not applicable. It's not a package. It's a student. I always give that example, which I'm very thankful for my drivers. When they see the child that's always met by the parent at the bus stop, it may be third grader, it may be fifth grader, and mom is always there. And one day mom is not there and student is kind of not sure, a little bit reluctant to get off the bus. Driver will radio in and make sure. It's not like just drop it off, take a picture, your student was dropped off and gone. So there is algorithms, but again, it's like it's still in development. It's just like airlines, or we can't stop everywhere. We have to watch, like we have certain requirements. The school bus industry is second most regulated industry besides the airline industry. So I mean, when you look at Amazon driver trucks, they are kind of, sometimes you see they're pretty scratched up and beat up. I would not want to do that to school buses with kids. So there is that algorithms, but it's something that's kind of have to be done. That these companies that are more successful, like TransFinder and Versatrans, they are programmers, they are people that program them for tracking, but they hire transportation directors and specialists, and they try to adapt to our current system, because it is really amazingly different from transporting packages. But like I said, everything we use was originated as a UPS or tracking software.
Thank you. Question here in the chat. How many more buses would we need to get our current tiers down to 30 minutes between runs rather than 40-minute time frame? Is this something that would be feasible?
Well, if we get down to 30 minutes, like for a morning example I gave you, it really leaves us 20 minutes. That I can't tell you exact number of buses, but it would be significant. It would be very significant number of buses that would be required to do 30-minute tiers, because that's, like I said, it leaves us really with 20-minute tiers in the morning, where we have to get students to school 10 minutes before the bell time. We have tried to, like I said, we were aware of the tiers. We worked on it. We moved, like currently we have 45 minutes in the morning tiers. We moved them to 40 minutes. We rerouted, so which requires a little bit more buses. We also work to disintegrate, like, I don't know if you remember our previous presentations, there was a lot how non-public schools integrated with public schools was creating challenges for us. We kind of have disintegrated somewhat. Carton buses no longer has no public school students, so we can change the bell times, but the tier times, I mean, we looked at it, we analyzed it, we routed it with that in mind. And I mean, it would be significant number of buses and significant number of drivers.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry. And sometimes when we mentioned, when it said, well, you only, like, let's say you add certain number of buses, not just buses. I mean, our mechanics we can't do preventative. We would have to add a mechanic. We would have additional bays. We don't have, those buses have to be maintained and supported and inspected 3 times a year. So it's a whole fueled. We have one diesel fueling station, 2 CNG. Adding more buses would require more fueling options and stuff like that. So it's not just the buses, but like I said, it would be significantly increased. And we would also, with 30-minute tiers, we would run some of the buses would be very empty. Like we would have to have run buses with maybe 5-6 students on it to get from City Line Avenue to the Black Rock. So it's just not gonna, it would be significant if we really would be wasting capacity of the buses, because you need the time to pick up as much students as possible.
Interesting, thanks. Another chat question, and then Michelle has her hand raised. We heard all the challenges in the implementation of bus schedules. Is there any schedule other than the current and maybe the proposed one that would be more ideal?
Honestly, I can't answer to that because the schedules are provided to me for analysis by the school board. There is no ideal schedule. Let's put it that way. There is no ideal. There's always will be groups of the parents who will not be. If you're looking for ideal schedule, we're not going to have. The schedule that currently is, we have worked it out, and I'm confident we can make it work with the resources we have. Hopefully we can get a little bit more drivers and make it even better and more efficient and everything. But all the proposed, like there was the elementary first, it has different challenges. From our transportation perspective, if we have these 40-minute tiers, we can make them both work, but they all have their challenge. They all have their challenges, and these challenges are not just transportation, they go wider than that. So right now it's so time consuming that we really trying to work on what board recommends us or asks us to do. So we trying to do those tasks. So I know there will be certain things that we're going to have to do to fine tune the schedule, the secondary swap. So we'll be working that way.
Thank you. Michelle, you have a question?
Hi. Well, that sounds very positive. You saying that you think you can make that board recommendation schedule work. My question is, would it help at all if there was an option for parents to opt out their children from the bus, maybe doing it at the beginning of the year, like we signed up for virtual academy, and then saying you can opt out for this amount of time and it cannot be changed until whatever other time, like maybe 6 months later, or however the virtual academy thing worked. Would that be an option? Is that a possibility? And would that help with the busing situation because of how you fill the buses, having more room?
Yeah, I'm gonna be careful answering this because this is some of this is beyond me. It's a legal school code and everything else. We can tell parents to opt out, but from what I've heard, I haven't seen one district. There are districts who tried to do that. They tried to even provide stipends to parents to transport, but all those didn't work out because according to current, and I may be wrong, but I believe that the school code right now, if parent comes back and says, you know what, I opted out, but I changed my mind, I have no recourse to not provide transportation. They are entitled to the transportation. That's the one thing. The other thing is it would definitely help, but if you could tell me now, not in the summer, because I'm rerouting next year already now. The routing team is working on they'll be routing summer and rerouting next school year now. We try to get it ready because our drivers come back in July, and we have to have runs ready for them that they can pick their runs and learn their runs. So our routing team, we start routing, we convert our database. We even did it a little bit later this year because of the bell time decision was not finalized, but we usually try to do that in March or April to start routing for next year. If I routed and in June somebody tells they're coming off the bus, I would have to reroute the whole system to make it efficient, or I just gonna have empty seat on the bus. And other thing I would say, they would have to be off the bus for a full year, because every time I add or remove a student, I will change the times for other parents. If that's a stop, it's a one stop. So then I'm gonna get parents, well, you had 3 months, I had this pickup time, or depending where the students comes on, I may have to reroute the whole run to go differently. So parents' run time, stop time may change, student stop time may change by 20 minutes when I add or remove a student. So that's one of the best things we can do to families. We do as best as we can with this traffic in the township to give some kind of consistency. We can't accommodate parents' work schedules or anything, but we know parents adjust their lives often to the time bus picks up. And so we would have to know it like in April or March, and we have to be sure that that's not going to change for next school year. We could open up some buses, but as I mentioned to you in the presentation, we have buses with 80 students assigned, so we already somewhat coordinate, not like we're going to open up 30 buses with that kind of system. But would it make more efficient? Definitely would make, but the parameters would be, I need to know now for next school year, and it would have to be really the full year.
And so how, Aldous, do you handle students that come into the district over the summer that change your routes?
We assign them to existing buses, and if not, I mean, throughout a year, sometimes parents receive a notification that they're on bell times change. But that's, again, sometimes we try to, that's where it comes in. We may try to make as little disruption in the middle of the school year as possible. Bigger changes we do over summer, for next school year, you may have bigger changes because we are out, but we try to not to disturb. If you would use an algorithm, it may change your time by 30 minutes on the bus, but we try not to do that to families. So when a student come in, most of the time it will fit in an existing bus route because we cover district readily. But if it's a special stop needed, we send out the notification for parents and say, hey, check the Power School, their stop time may have changed. Student may come in the middle of the run, so it's maybe changing only half of the parents on the run. But so that's how we handle those kind of situations. And when we talk about special needs students, it's a whole different thing. We may contract it, or we may have to find another accommodation.
Lisa?
I just had another question because you mentioned earlier hazardous roads and that there were 3,000 students who kind of live along hazardous roads, but within that, I guess 1 mile or 3/4 of a mile radius from their schools. Understanding that Harridan, for example, may not, I don't know, but are there schools that kind of have a high, like where, because I know the township is also looking at sidewalks and walkability in Lower Merion. Are there areas that we as parents could help push for in the township to help support getting more walkers to school? I mean, having walkers, aside from like all of the ease of transportation, it's healthier, it gets the kids outside, it's a nice break for them on the way home. Like there are a lot of benefits to having kids walk to school. I know I live 1/3 of a mile from both Penn Valley and Welsh Valley on Fairview, and we're bused. And in my head, like there are a lot of kids that could walk if there was a sidewalk along Hagees Ford Road. I don't know if that's just in my head or if that's reality. Like, are there schools that where having more sidewalks would have the greatest impact? Or which schools would those be? Do you have
I
a
can't
sense?
tell, yeah. I can't tell you which schools those would be from top of my head. I'm sure there are areas, but that would be, it may be, it would be more helpful now if there's any locations you can send it to me and we can take a look at the impact possibly, because I don't want it right now. My routing team is implementing new software, and we also
Right.
have to do some work for next year. I really don't want to put them on looking at all the locations around the district. But again, it's not going to be, we have looked at it before, kind of in general, like an aerial type of view and everything. And I mean, there are a couple schools that may be impacted, but I would say probably overall, if you would enforce it, which probably can be even done to that extent, maybe 1 or 2 buses could be saved, but it still doesn't make a major impact on things. But for a walking sidewalks, if there's any location, if you want to send us, say, hey, would sidewalks help? I mean, we can
Yeah.
take it. We'll be
I mean, I
happy
guess I guess I'm also kind of curious, like, is there a relationship between transportation in the school district and, I don't even know what the committee is. I don't know enough about it. I only recently heard that it existed, but, you know, to kind of look, sorry, my dog is crawling up on me, to look at those situations and see how we can kind of bridge things together, to benefit the community.
I mean, we do work with the township. I mean, it's more like when it comes to attendance areas and everything, it's more of a operations part of it. I know Jim Lil, my boss, works with township. I'm not involved in those conversations, so I really can't answer you exactly. I know that we always coordinate things with the townships and township and everything. So, but I can't, yeah, I can't, unfortunately, I can't give you the details, who works with who, because it's a little bit, attendance there is kind of it's all these, it's more of a operations department part of it than transportation.
All right, thanks. So maybe Jim can answer that for Lisa. Tanya, you had a question?
Yes. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm one of your biggest fans, and you have a lot of them, but I am one of them. And the community, we've been trying to brainstorm innovative ways of kind of solving this problem so that no school starts before 8 and no school finishes after 3:50. And one of the barriers that we came up with was the amount of time needed between middle and high school. And what we kind of got stuck on is we need to shave 5 minutes off of that run. And I know that you've shared a lot of information today. And so I just wanted, my head is, how do we get those 5 minutes? One of the things that we were told is that if a child is running late, the parent can call in and the bus will circle back around and pick up that child. And I guess I'm wondering if we could eliminate that practice of circling back around for kids. Would that give us the 5 minutes to solve, like, in a cascade, everything else?
No, the answer is no. That's just a few occasions. We may, and we most of the time for middle school, we won't go back. But again, can talk about certain issues, but there are families that may not have means of getting student to school that we are aware of it. So we may sometimes, but again, it depends how far bus pulled away and everything. But we're talking about, it's not daily practice. It happens once in a while. We're trying to be conscious of it if it's but again, it's not going to impact overall. It's not that kind of service is not routed into those times between the tiers. It's
But there's
actually
enough-
the actual route.
But there's enough buffer in the system for the kids to get to school 10 minutes early and to loop around as needed if possible. Like there's enough.
No, not really. Sometimes when we loop around, the other kids will be late. We may be late. That's why we try not to loop around and parents get angry. But like I said, I can't talk about personal circumstance, but most of the time when you're going to call. The other thing is like if we usually check GPS if we stopped at the stop and we activated our reds and student wasn't there, we're not going to go back. But sometimes drivers, their spare driver, they might have missed the stop. Then we feel that we may have to turn around. But again, that bus will be a little bit late for school. It's not going to arrive 10 minutes before school. It will arrive 5 minutes between school. And those are more of isolated incidents. It's with 103 buses, seems like it happens maybe once every day or whatever, but it's not something that is built in a routing system.
Thank you.
And, oh, Mark, you're next.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Mark, did you freeze? I think you,
All right,
There.
thanks for your presentation. It's very enlightening, and I appreciate the work that you do. I'm going to ask you a question. Currently, all of the schools and a grade level start and end at the same time. From a transportation, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit breaking up, but I heard that you said that all the schools
Okay.
start.
I was just wondering, from a transportation perspective, is there any efficiency in having schools within grade level start? Is there any efficiency for schools within grade levels to start and end at different times from a transportation perspective? Would that make it easier and quicker and more efficient for you and our bus drivers, or would it not really have any effect?
We haven't analyzed it, so I can't really tell you either way. It may have a positive. I mean, it definitely would create a lot more complex system. That's no question about it. But
Did you catch that?
But would it have any efficiencies? It's possible. That type of scenario, I haven't been asked to analyze that type of scenario.
Or I could throw onto that, like putting kids from Penn Valley and Welsh Valley, siblings that might be picked up at the same, like merging some kids where the schools are near each other, like Kinwood and Valley Kinwood Middle School or Penn Valley and Welsh Valley sort of thing.
Yeah, that would only really work on situations where our buses are not full. I can assure you our buses over assigned already. So I will just have to, like, merging them, I will have to take some, but we don't have that. We've been running even like with a driver shortage, we've been running tighter runs with less ability to do such things lately. So there could be some schools that could be possibly combined, but that would be a whole different scenario and a whole different analysis. And I would, that would be up to the board. And I know that it will have positive and probably going to have negative impacts also. I know big cities do that, and I know that.
I appreciate it.
Would you be
Now,
able?
you mentioned that we were short, I think 22 drivers last summer, and that you all were able to get that number down. How many drivers are we short currently?
Well, I didn't check the exact number. We are in a better situation. I haven't had to drive for a long time now, so we definitely in a better situation. But we still can hire. I mean, we're interviewing every day almost, and we try and bring in drivers into training. I would say we probably at 15, 13 drivers short possibly. And but I can look up that number and send it to ISC, but that's also changing because as we hire drivers, there are drivers who retire or leave or has medical condition that takes them out of service.
Aldous, there's another question in the chat. Is there any talk of requiring seat belts on school buses?
They're not required. It's very difficult topic. I can see both sides of it. Currently, it's not required. There's there's opinion that they may help, that they may be better. 3-point, not the lab belt. Lab belt will not do much. But then there are also challenges. Again, I don't want to go in these, but hopefully we never have to deal with that. But you see that there are bus accidents, and if you have a 60 first graders and kindergartners and second graders on a bus and it's overturns, are they able to release them from the seatbelts? Are they stuck at that point? Because there's no way driver will have ability to cut them all out. We have a belt cutters on the buses. So it's nobody really knows exactly. There's a lot of going on, and every accident is analyzed by FMCSA, but the conclusive decision hasn't been made. For our home to school buses, I believe a compartmentalization that we have on the buses, the seat in front of a bus, because we don't travel in really high speeds, it's padded, and that prevents student. But that's why sometimes parents need to know that our drivers are very strict at saying, please sit down, don't stand up. Sit down and keep your arms and legs in the seat. It's not just driver's caprice. It's really safety of your student, safety of your child, because if they're not in a seat, that compartmentalization not going to work. So they have to be in front of it. So if there is minor accident, they just butt against the seat in front of them. It's padded, it's tested, crash tested. But if they are standing or anything, that's dangerous. So drivers often try to, and parents say, why can't you let my child to change the seats and sit with their friend and everything? There's strict rules behind it.
Aldous, you have done a fabulous job with your first Zoom meeting here with your presentation. It worked out fabulously. Thank you everyone for the questions. We are out of time, but Aldous, thank you for everything you do, including driving the bus to Black Rock at the beginning of the year.
Thank you for inviting me. Hopefully I don't have to do that anymore.
We hope not. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you all.